Great. I stole a bit of background from Neil, which was lovely of him, and I put that into this slideshow for us as well. So we're going to start off looking at a bit of what he discussed last week, and it just quickly develops into chapter 1 as well. So I don't really think there's a point to read chapter 1 because we've looked at it often enough through our lives, and it's a very, very beautiful chapter about Christ himself. So I'm sure we can think of many verses from chapter 1 that just come to mind straight away. And I don't think there's much reason to look at it and read it right now. So let's go back to what Neil was telling us last week. What people recall what David said to Neil? What was the key thing that David, Neil's son, said to him about Hebrews? Neil, you're welcome to answer when it goes dead, because you've probably got the answer anyway.
I think he said
I could, but I haven't got a picture. I'm not sure if I've got a voice as well.
You do have a voice. That's a good voice.
Good. Well, in the absence of anyone remembering it, Hebrews is all about contrast, not comparison. One cannot compare the two covenants when the first covenant has gone.
Exactly. So if anybody remembers that from last week, that was the point that Neil was trying to get across. It's the contrast between the old or the new, right? In fact, the old is just, it's gone, it's vanished. It's a rusty old hulk that is just, there's no point even considering the old. Right? The law had departed. It had 4 wheels and a chassis and 2 headlamps, and then it pointed forward to the new, to the better. And there's a lot of other words that come out through Hebrews. Neil also had in part of his notes, and I'm sure he brought it forward, was the idea of things being better under this new. And as we go through and looking at Jesus himself, looking at that relationship between God and Jesus, there's no comparison between a son and a father and everything else, because there never was that relationship previous to Jesus and Father, right? So that's the contrast. The Lord brought those examples to us and showed us this is going to happen, and then it gave us the new. You can see that it came up as part of the historical argument around the time of Acts, around the time that the Hebrews was written as well. Neil pointed to this verse last week too, what we usually call the Jerusalem Conference. And this is where they're arguing, or let's say arguing, discussing, okay, we need to focus on the traditions as well, because we want to hold on to those. So they're looking to hold on to parts of the old law, like circumcision, and they've got to go and observe different festivals and feasts, etc. And the apostles, they conceded on some things. Some things they thought, it's not that important, it doesn't matter if they do it, that's fine, we'll add that in. So you can see right there in Acts 15, there was still this looking to the old. We want to go back and look at that old V-dub and say, hey, look, we still want that thing there, right? But it's got nothing to do with the new. The new Porsche is amazing. It doesn't even add up. It doesn't even stack up, these two. So there's no comparison. It's just complete contrast. And you can follow from Acts 15 all the way through the rest of the apostles' voyages and journeys. This conflict that kept coming up with the old. They left the Jerusalem conference. Then Paul took a few of his friends and they went through Thessalonica, and the Jews followed them. Then there was instigated violence. They went through Berea, the same thing. In Corinth, he was there for what, 18 months, I think? And it says there in chapter 17, chapter 18, that the Jews again stirred up violence. This man is persuading people to worship contrary to the law. And all these episodes happened again and again. In Ephesus, some were stubborn, refusing to believe the way. They reviled the way. And he goes to Greece because he's told not to go through Syria. because the Jews are trying to kill him. He's trying to get back home and go through the quickest route to Syria. And I believe it was an angel appeared to him and said, don't go that way. They're going to kill you. So they're looking to force the old way back. They're looking to take away the new and force the old way back onto the people. Now, Hebrews brings up this point immediately. So you can see the conflict or the contrast, beg your pardon, between the old and the new in the very first few verses of Hebrews. Straight away, the author says, after God spoke long ago, various portions in various ways. Now have a think about those two phrases, various portions in various ways. Various portions, as if to say, well, there are lots of different parts, different segments, instead of one whole revelation. Now take Abraham as an example, because the Jews love to say, hey, look, Abraham's my father, so I'm good, right? As if to say they take huge pride in Abraham. Now, how did God deal with Abraham? First, the dream, leave your country. Cool. Gets to the country, builds an altar. Then God comes in another dream. This is your land. Great. Then God comes in another dream. Here's a covenant with you. Okay. Then God comes in another dream. And then another dream, then another dream, until he's like, now here's your son, here's your heritage. 7 different times, piece by piece by piece by piece by piece. That's various portions. It's not one massive revelation going, here it is. And that's what the writer is saying. Previously, God did it bit by bit by bit by bit, and in various ways. So what were those various ways? Well, angels, prophets, kings and priests, burning bushes, all these different things that he did through laws, through festivals, through songs, through prophecy. So there's multiple times, multiple repetitions. So that's the old way. That's the contrast of the old way. It was little bits and little different ways. And what's the new way? Well, in these last days, he's spoken to us in a son. Now, the Greek there is indicating that it's not the son, or it's not a son. It's the very fact that it's a son of God, okay? As if to explore the relationship between a father and a child, a parent and a child. So what's that indicating? It's indicating there's this intimate acquaintance. There's this knowledge of the father's intent, of the father's morals, of his ideals. There's an intuition of the father. As if, okay, we're all children. We're all from fathers, from mothers, etc. We understand our parents, or we like to think we do, much better than we think other people do. So other people might go, oh, your mum and dad, they're amazing, and you go, whatever, no, they're not, because I know. And you've got this intuition about how your parents are, and you know it deep down in your heart. I'm sure sometimes you got a little bit twisted in the wrong direction, and as we do as children. So we should be nice all the time to our parents. Let's just get that out there. So the very fact that Jesus radiates this glory of his Father. In verse 3, he represents his essence. He's accomplished this through the forgiveness of sins, etc. He has the entirety of God in him. So it's so different to various ways, various portions. Right now, in the Son, God has given to the Jews, to the Gentiles, everything about him, about his love, his compassion, and all the things that we do not understand about God. We can see them in the Son. If you want to have a good verse to compare this, Romans chapter 1 verse 4 is exactly the same thing. In fact, it says there that Jesus was declared to be the Son of God through the resurrection of the dead. I think the exact phrase is. Now, the phrase declared in Romans chapter 1 means that Jesus is now bound to this new existence. He is now defined by this new existence to his Father. There is no separation of Son and Father because of this new life that he's been given through his death and resurrection. So that's the contrast that this writer in Hebrews is trying to point out straight away. The old way, that's the old way. Why do you want the old way again? There's no comparison to a son. That's the old way is not even worth thinking about or saving. In fact, there are some historical problems with the old way. The trouble is, it's what the Jews always wanted, didn't they? Even to the Son himself, mocking the Son for being the Son of God. As if he trusts in God, like God, if he wants to deliver him. Because he said, I am the Son of God. So that's what they despised, that fact that Jesus said he was the Son of God. They didn't actually acknowledge that there was a son in this relationship. So to make chapter 1 of Hebrews, and hopefully the rest of Hebrews, give it a bit more sense, I want to very quickly explore what the old system was, what the old way of theology was to the Jews. Now, this is very simple. I'm just going to put up five beings, 5 objects, 5 things, and then I'd like you as a group to tell me what their hierarchy was to the Jews. So here's God, then you have the angels, you have the law, the Jews themselves, where they come along, and then the world. So in the Jewish belief, their old way belief, what's the hierarchy of those 5 beings or objects or people?
The law.
Where does the law come in, Steve?
Well, they loved the law. They loved it.
All right.
They
What
put it above.
comes first? Who do people think comes first?
Why wouldn't they think it was God who came first?
Yeah.
Thank
agreed.
you, Jackie. This is not a trick question. That's right. Well, it does come first. Well done. So what's next?
Angels.
I missed that one. I'm sorry.
Angels?
Oh, I've got somebody in here that knows what they're talking about. Yes, they actually believe that angels are next. We'll have a look at a few verses to back that up. What's next? So let's go number 3. What comes number 3?
Are you asking what's the order of importance to the Jews?
Correct, Steve. Yes, I was.
The written word.
The written word, let's say that's the law, the written word, that's right. They also put themselves pretty much on par with that. And then the rest of the world. That's how the Jews see their idea of the hierarchy of religion, isn't it? Of their belief system. The rest of the world it's just cast to the background, it's non-existent. God himself, yes, he's prominent and first. Then the angels, and then they're right there with the law. The Jews are right there with the law. Now, looking at that system, what's missing from this hierarchy?
Well, you haven't put angels in, but Gentiles, presumably.
No, I see that funny cherubims thing, Jackie, that's the angels.
Where's the angels?
It's right beside God. It's the thing with wings, that's the cherubim, that's the angels.
And
Oh.
the saint.
The sun is missing.
The Son is missing. Thank you, Gnomes. Where's Jesus? That's right. The Son is missing. In the new way, what's irrelevant in this hierarchy? What's irrelevant that we don't need anymore?
A national structure.
A national structure, which would you say that's like the law, right? There's not much relevance to this anymore, is there? Because that pointed to Jesus himself. And then we need a change in superiority. The Jews had this funny thing about superiority, so we're going to change a little bit about their superiority complex. They have to come down a tad or two. So they have to step down from their really proud system of being so far above everybody else. The Good Samaritan highlights this, right? Jesus proving to them, you think yourselves so far better than everybody else because you hold on to the law so much. So the new way, we're trying to show that there is God and Jesus, this relationship. The angels are still there, but the angels now minister, or they always have ministered. And the world and the Jews are on a par together. They're seen as being equal. And yes, they are two different entities, Jews and Gentiles, absolutely, but they're now together in this new way that God and Jesus have established for us. So to educate people in getting past the old way, the writer to the Hebrews is pretty much trying to say, hang on guys, got to knock down the angels first and prove that Jesus is actually better than them, and he's better than them because of quite a few reasons. And that's the new way, isn't it? That's the amazing way. That's why the centurion, when he's looking at Jesus on the cross, truly, this man was the Son of God. And that's why when we get to Hebrews chapter 1, one of the things that the writer does is says, okay, the Jews' old way, they have this weird fascination with the angels. We're going to bring the angels down a bit and then prove that Jesus is above that hierarchy and show why he is better than that hierarchy. He's even become far better than the angels. He's so far better. Why are you considering the old way? Why do you look back at it all the time? He's a son with his father. Let's look at that relationship. And that's exactly what the Hebrews writer does. You are my son. So there's this familial relationship that the writer reinforces twice there in verse 5. Like taking Psalms and also the prophecy back in 1 Samuel 7. Like I have fathered you. In fact, I have begotten you. You are actually my child. And there in 1 Samuel 7, it's like, I will be his father. I will be my son. So there's a relationship between the two that Jesus tells us. In John 5:19, he mimics the Father. Now you look at your grandkids or your own children that you had, or if you don't have kids, you look at your friends who have got kids and you see how they interact with their parents. And they're always repeating words, repeating phrases and actions. And this is what Jesus is saying in John 5, verse 19. The Son can do nothing of his own accord, but only what he sees the Father doing. Whatever the Father does, the Son does likewise. That's who we are. We mimic what our parents do. There's unity between the two. John 10, I and the Father are one. There's intuition and understanding between the two. Say Ephesians 5, fathers, don't provoke your children to anger. You can teach them, you can educate them, you can discipline them, but don't push them far enough that they start getting annoyed and a little bit frustrated and then rebel against you. And that's the same in Colossians chapter 3. And the opposite stands. Children, obey your parents in everything. So there's this amazing relationship that we get with the father and his son. And then God says to Moses, here's what he's like as a father. This is how he acts as a father. The Lord your God will fight for you, where you saw him carrying you along like a man does his child through the deserts. He's saying there in Deuteronomy chapter 1. That's how a father interacts with his son. He carries him, he cares for him, he nurtures him, he leads him. And then all these other aspects of the relationship between the two. So why would you want to step away from that relationship and go to a relationship of angelic service? See, verse 5 is a contrast between verses 6 and 7. That familial relationship between Jesus and God is contrasted between the relationship of service of verses 6 and 7. Let the angels worship him, as in bow down and worship him. Verse 7, make his angels spirits as servants, flames of fire. The angels become servants. And that's what the Hebrews writer is saying. We've got a father-son relationship, brilliant, amazing intuition, amazing emotion and compassion coming out. The angels that you desire so much in the old way, all they do is serve. Why do you want to replace that with this? That doesn't make sense. The angels were created, obviously. Psalm 148 verse 5, let them praise the Lord, for he commanded and they were created. The angels actually know their role. So think about this. The angels know what their role is. You mustn't do that, the angel said to John, because I'm a fellow with you and your brothers, the prophets, and with those who keep the words of this book. What's he saying when you mustn't do that? John was bowing down to worship this angel, and the angel is like, no, don't do that. I'm a fellow servant of yours as well. I serve you to bring you to God. Angels were commanded to protect. Psalm 91 verse 11, he would command his angels concerning you to guard you in all your ways. On their hands they will bear you up, as they did with Elisha. The multitude of angels surrounding them when the army was about to overtake. Daniel, the angels that stopped the lion's mouth, or the angels that protected his friends in the fiery furnace. Peter in prison, the angel that came along and knocked the shackles off his feet and opened up the doors to let him out. These angels serve and protect, and they do for Christ too. Matthew 4, after the 40 days of temptation is over, the devil left him, and behold, the angels came and ministered to him. Even before he is ascended to his Father, the angels are ministering to him. Luke 22, in the Garden of Gethsemane, where he's praying to his Father, give me a different way. Please, if there's another way, let it be. And there appeared to him an angel from heaven, strengthening him, serving him, bringing him along to that point where he would give his life and be raised from the dead. So that's the contrast, isn't it? People are going, yeah, I want the old way. This is the old way. Don't you want the new way? The new way is with the Son of God. How special is that? So the Son is given authority. And this, I think if these verses get a little bit confusing, it's almost dicing on Trinitarian here, so let's just brush over them and pretend we understand them. I still struggle with it, but two things that we can see here. These verses 8 and verse 10, the verses that the writer takes from the Old Testament, are contrasting against Hebrews 1 verse 14. So verse 14 says, but to which of the angels did he ever say, sit at my right hand? So that's the point right there. Which of the angels did he ever give a position of authority? Did he ever bring right up to his position? But to the Son, he says, right? So that's the first thing to think about. And that's kind of the background to these two tricky verses to get your head around. Even if you look at them and go, oh, who's God, who's Jesus? I don't know which, because the titles interchange. That's the beautiful thing about this. The titles do interchange. But the whole point of these two verses is the writer is saying God has given Jesus this authority to do such things or to attain to such things. He never ever gave it to the angels. So the writer is saying, okay, but to the Son, he says, verse 8, the throne is forever, your scepter is forever. You're anointed over your companions. So you have things which are far, far better than your companions. Or verse 10, you laid the foundations and will roll them up. Now, I really don't know what the psalm is getting at. I do understand when you look at Psalm 102, the psalmist is speaking directly with God. Because when you look at verse 24 of Psalm 102, he does say God, right, referring directly to his God himself, that these things are the things that God would do. And now the writer of the Hebrews attributes the same things to Jesus. This happens with a few other verses too. You can see it in Isaiah 45. It's exactly the same that's used in Philippians chapter 2. As if to say that Jesus has now attained such a position. He's been given such authority that what we used to think God would be doing is what Jesus is now doing. I don't know if that's some sort of really basic and trivial understanding, but that's how I can get my head around it. The authority that he has now been given. The angels themselves declare the same authority. The angel saying to Mary, to his mother, he will be great, he will be the Son of the Highest. The Lord God will give him the throne of his father David. That's the contrast between a son and a servant. The son can take on the name of his father. The son can take on the responsibilities and privileges of his father. The angels could never attain to such things. They were never given such things. That's why you get to Hebrews 1 verse 14. They are under Christ's command too. They serve to Christ. Christ has been put in such a position that the angels are under him. They're his ministers. They're ministers to us, to bring us to Christ. To which of the angels did he ever say? Did he ever give positions of authority, positions of power? To have power over the kingdoms, to have power of his law and his truth, to have power over his creation. Right? This is the power and authority that Jesus has inherited, that binding, that determined and that defined relationship between him and his Father. And we know that he rules over them. We know that Jesus is there in heaven, is at the right hand of God, ruling. Angels and authorities being subject to him, sorry. You know that Ephesians 1, it says that all rule, all authority, all power and dominion has been given to him, not to the angels. Romans 8:38, nothing comes between us and Jesus. Not even death or life. Not even angels or principalities. Not in the present or in the future. Nothing separates us from Jesus and God. There is no angel above us because they minister to us. There is no separation of belief. If we see Jesus as being the Son of God and the one that brings us to our Father. I mean, these verses are incredibly powerful, but there's so much in Scripture that you can just go, here's another verse, here's another verse, here is another verse. And that's why I think the writer kind of concludes, unfortunately, it's the next verse in chapter 2. So we've got to think about these things, give real careful attention to this stuff, unless we should then slip away too. So don't go back to the old. Don't go back to that rusty V-dub. Strive for the Porsche. Strive to look for Jesus as the Son of God, and then you will see how he is superior over the angels, over the law, over the feasts and festivals and covenants. And then you'll see how the Jews and the Gentiles, that relationship becomes equal. And obviously there are differences between the two. There's still covenants to one, and we're still adopted into that promise, right? But that's what the Hebrews is trying to do. It's trying to explain that change of the old versus new and the massive contrasts between the two of them. So that is Hebrews chapter 1.